Welcome to another episode of Dango Thoughts. This week I had the chance to speak to Josh Devine. Josh was the drummer for One Direction, and he was drumming since he was 3 years old. Now, the whole idea behind the show is to point the attention on people who live their craft, people who devoted their lives to one thing and they excel at it. Josh is definitely an exemplar of that. A lot can be said about Josh, but one of the things that always stands out about him is the fact that he's so humble. He's really good at what he does. He reached one of the pinnacles of success in his field, and yet he never stops innovating, never stops caring about other people's progress, never stops caring about the craft and the people around him. I've known Josh for quite a while, but sitting and talking to somebody, even when you know them really well, it really reveals new dimensions of understanding about the person, and also I'm so happy that I get to learn from people who are masters in what they do. Now, Josh will recoil from me calling him a master, but he's definitely that. He devoted his life to his craft, and it definitely shows. We talk about his life, music, and what it actually takes to be a successful individual at pretty much anything. I found the conversation with Josh to be really inspiring, and I hope you will too. This week, I finally eliminated almost all the bugs, so aside from a little bit of a blur on my face, which doesn't really matter that much, and maybe a couple of portions in which I have to check the cameras, everything seems to be perfect. So again, thank you everybody for your patience. I promise that from now on, everything is going to look and feel much smoother and more professional. If you like what I do, please like and subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot in the long run. This week, I've also added my Patreon account. You can find the link in the description. If you like what I'm doing, you can use the link to contribute, and I promise the money goes to good use. I will make sure that the content gets better regardless, but in the end, it definitely helps to set as many other things aside so I can focus on creating content for you guys. And now, without further ado, I give you Josh Devine. Josh!
Danny,
Thank you, brother, for doing this.
thank you for having me.
I know you're always very, very busy, and you're not busy. You're just like...
I'm not busy at
You're
all.
just chilling all day.
I'm just doing
You
nothing.
don't care.
I wake up, I go back to sleep, and I eat somewhere in between.
But either way, I'm very happy you're doing this.
Thanks.
I wanted to talk to you for a long time because we never talk in general, and I miss you.
Miss you as well.
So let's start with a simple one.
Okay.
What's the meaning of life?
42.
Done. We can wrap it up.
Cool. Let's go.
If you would have to point to one thing now, to anybody who doesn't know, your career is quite extensive, and you started as... Well, actually, you didn't start with One Direction. You did a bunch of stuff before, right?
I started with other artists before.
What was what would be one thing you can point to before One Direction that for you was considered kind of like a pinnacle? Or what
The very first proper gig with a legit big artist I did was a guy, a rapper called Skepta in the UK. At the time he'd released a couple albums. I was fortunate enough to play on a song on an album, and then he wanted us to come and record and then play live. So we did some live stuff. That was the first introduction to like, oh, this is a career, you know.
How old were you?
18, 19.
Oh, I thought you
Maybe.
were gonna say like 6. I was like,
No, that was my first like proper. I toured with other bands before. and
okay,
Done.
because you started drumming when you were
3.
So I originally when you said that, I thought it was okay. It's like a cool thing you say. Well, what do you mean 3? Like you can't.
No, genuinely, like I have a video somewhere. My parents have a video of me sitting on my dad's lap. He was a singer in a band, and he was in the studio recording. And I got in there, I think, at the age of 2 or 3. There's a video, and I'm sitting on my dad's lap, and I'm just playing, keeping time. My dad's doing the pedals because I couldn't reach, and I could just play.
So basically, you were kind of born with rhythm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was never something I had to sit and go, gotta learn like 1, 2, 3. I could just pick it up and just naturally just do it, which was strange. Which is hard because now when I try and teach people, I find it sometimes very difficult to try and teach basic stuff because I'm just like, oh, it's this, and I'm like, oh, wait, how do I break this down? Because it's been so long since I've ever had to think about really breaking it down. So actually teaching people now has helped me kind of reestablish and firm up all those beginning building blocks, because I'm having to go, oh yeah, that's why I do that. Okay, cool. So I count to this and I do that, you know. It's quite interesting.
Do you find yourself teaching people a lot? Is this something you do?
Not too much. I've taken on a couple people back in England, just over Zoom, just while there's not been any live work or anything, I'm thinking, how do I keep playing drums but still making money and still going on? So yeah, I've taken on a couple people, just some real beginners, which I don't usually do, just because I suck at teaching. Or I think I suck at teaching.
Because of the thing that you mentioned? That
I find it hard sometimes to explain what I'm doing to people and breaking it down and making it like, I have a lot of patience and I'll really try and sit, but I feel like I don't have the skills to vocabulary, whatever that word is.
Vocabulary.
That. And get, rather than just like sitting and playing and saying it's like this, it's kind of hard sometimes for me to, that's definitely my drawback. I just need to get better at explaining and using my words rather than just being like, well, it's like this, like keep doing this. And
so if I ask you, do you think people are born with natural tendencies, the answer would be of course yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So
in all areas of life.
Yeah,
definitely.
Your dad had or your mom had a musical background?
My dad had a musical background. My mom, I guess, kind of like her side of the family as well. There's some music, but it was, my dad's side was more like the musical lineage. Yeah.
So there was never a question for you. It's always fascinating to me to see people who, from a very young age, they feel not only they are born into something, not because it's a family business, but because it's kind of like a DNA business. Like there's
you kind of know that someone's angry right now.
Yeah.
It's okay.
He doesn't think so, or she doesn't think so. I don't want to discriminate.
Yeah, of course. The light probably turned green, and that person was, slow off the mark, and they're like, move. It's California for you.
Which is no, actually, California doesn't have that. It's weird. The other day,
dude, I get beeped at all the time when I'm sitting there. Like, if the light goes green and I haven't just instantly floored it, there's people behind me going, "Hey, come on!"
That's usually more of a New York thing. That's weird.
Oh no, New York too. But no, yeah. To answer your question, yeah, it's I know. I definitely think there's something embedded in your DNA. Like you see anybody whose parents have some sort of musical background, or like my father did it for a living for a bit, and then when my youngest brother was born, he cut his hair and got a real job because the situation they're in, he wasn't able to provide for us doing music. So, but I've always been around music. He's always exposed me to music, and both him and my mom have been just very since day one when I went. I used to take out little pots and pans and sit with my dad's drumsticks. 'Cause he was a singer, but he also played drums before all of that. So I used to just take the sticks out of the cupboard. I remember it, just hit pans and stuff, and they were like, okay, we need to probably get him a drum kit, see what happens. And they've always been just super for it the whole time. They've never once been like, oh, you need to pick a realistic career. They've always been like, hey, why not? If you can do it, let's go.
Did you ever have to question it? Ever?
Yeah.
Really?
So more later on, more like when I was about 17, 18, once I'd already been in the industry and once I'd already done stuff, that was when I realized how tough it is, and no matter how good you can try and get or what level you try and get to, there's an element of luck. Or if you don't believe in luck, there's an element of just being in the right place at the right time. And there's an element of just getting that break, which there's no set path to get. It's kind of like some people get some of the best musicians in the world still to this day will live and die undiscovered, and we will be robbed of hearing potentially the greatest music in the world ever because they didn't have the opportunity to put it in front of a load of people. And that's changing now with the world of being online. But yeah, I definitely, I think before I got the One Direction gig, I think I was definitely in a place where I was like, okay, cool, I need to start thinking, how the hell am I gonna figure this out? Am I going to try and do this for a proper living, have no support, no job, just this as my career? And that's kind of, I never tried hard in school because my thought process was, I'll be a professional drummer. So I've had that belief since I was like 3 years old of like, I'll do this for a living one day. And even at that time when you don't know what a living is, you just kind of think, you see people on stage like, I want to do that. Yeah. You don't think there's money attached. You just kind of think, oh, this I want that experience,
That's interesting. I can't even, I can understand it conceptually, but I think, I don't know for most people, but I know for me, it sounds like kind of like the perfect life trajectory, but I can't imagine, like there were things when I was younger that I knew that I really want to do, but it was never, I actually never really stopped and thought about what could have went different for me to like just put all the eggs in that basket.
Sure.
Maybe, yeah, the parents pushing, or kind of like it being available, plus everybody telling you it's the right thing. So there's kind of like no question marks there.
I think that's it. I feel like with a lot of people, especially in music, if they don't have thick skin, especially from a young age, you're always going to have people tell you suck. Or I had teachers all the time saying it's an unrealistic goal to try and be this. You know,
you can't say they're wrong. Like it's
of
you know what I
course,
mean? Yeah.
But it was like there was a few teachers in particular growing up that would be just like, you know, yeah, like good luck, mate. It's not going to happen. You're never going to make
so
it.
you
You're never
had
going to do that.
kind of.
I had that, and I would still I'd never take it to heart. Or I had friends in school even that would just be like, so what? You can play the drums, like you're still not worth shit, mate. It's not going to do anything. And that, and you got to kind of like not let that infest your mind as well, because as soon as you do and you start believing that, it does put a downer. Like there's been other times when you've kind of I've you know come off of something and playing a big tour, and I'm like, really, is this it now? Like you kind of think, oh, am I not that good? Or you read comments online of people just hating on you for no reason just because you play on like a boy band, and you think, damn, like, you know, yeah, really, am I not? Like, is this the right thing? Am I freak? You know, whatever. You kind of get those seeds of doubt, and you kind of stop and go, oh, I've like worked my whole life for this. Like, why not? And if someone's got to do it, like there'll always be every single career opportunity you ever get. You'll always think, well, someone has to do that career. So why the hell not you? Like, and that's just kind of the mentality I've had my whole life.
Oh, that's amazing, because I think that actually that's an interesting point you raised, that your moments of doubt came at already the peak of success. They didn't come to you before, or maybe they did, but maybe the stakes.
But it's something that even now there'll be moments of doubt where I'm like, you know, you're going through different career phases and you're just kind of figuring stuff out. There's always doubt, and that's always there. And then you just got to kind of be willing to look through it and go, no, I'm doing this for a reason. Whether you believe that, you know, everything happens for a reason or not, like you kind of think, well, I've come this far. Why am I going to just pack it in because of thoughts of, you know, oh, is this the right thing now? Like, is this sustainable in this climate? Can I make a living still doing what I love doing? And the answer is yes, of course. You just got to work your ass off.
Do you know these moments when your life writes itself in such a way for a certain period in which, and maybe for you it's like for very long stretches of period, but it writes itself in such a way that you go, this looks scripted.
Yeah.
Does it happen to you?
Yeah, sometimes.
What is that?
It's weird. I don't know. That's a hard question.
But you know what I mean, right? It's like
sometimes we're like, I couldn't write this. It's so perfect. Like something.
Yeah, it's like
everything has happened.
So many
like,
things had to align. Yeah,
exactly. And that's when, you know, people want to start saying, you know, it was destiny, it was fate, and this is always what it was meant to be. And I'm like, well, maybe, but at the same time, you know, that's almost to say that whatever you're gonna do, you would always have ended up at this point. Whereas I don't think that's true. I feel like there's a string of very conscious decisions and unconscious decisions made throughout your whole life to shape your destiny. I don't believe there's always an end point, but I believe there's like 100,000 different ways of getting there. Every decision makes a new path, like the butterfly effect. Everything changes something else. But I do somehow believe that like there is just certain things that we all are going to do, and that we are destined to do. And however we end up getting there, it always ends up working out that way, and most of the time for the best. You know.
If what you're saying is, I have a very similar thought about that, and sometimes I like to. I don't know if that's true, but sometimes I like to think about it as if it's true, which is we were all born into this place, and it's a riddle. And the riddle is, you came in here to do a thing that you yourself set out to do, but the riddle is so sophisticated that you come into this space without having any trace of you choosing this, or that you need to find it. And only when you kind of make the right moves inside, heart, mind, all kind of like you kind of align all of it, it's almost like a key. Like when it aligns, it like you can push the key a little further in. Then you got to play with it a little, and you can push it a little more in. And then it seems like only the right combinations of like states will move you deeper into this thing. And then every time you do this incremental push in, it feels like there's a certain feeling attached to it, which is like, right, that feels right. And I feel like that, I like to think that that's kind of like the fate.
Yeah, sure.
Which is like this riddle you got to solve for yourself, which you yourself set out to do, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can get behind that. I think there's some people in life where everything just happens the way it needs to happen, and it's almost like they look like they have an easy path, and they just get it, and they live happily. And I think for some people that is true. There's almost like they didn't need to try. For whatever reason, everything was the perfect condition, the perfect timing.
But I don't mean to cut you off, but do you think that's true? Because a lot of people will look at you from the side and would think that.
Well, yeah, we see this is
But that's not how it was, right?
I think with a lot, like, look at anyone that is successful. I'm not saying by any means I'm successful, but look at anybody that is like.
Sometimes you're being so humble for no reason. Like,
no,
you're a successful person in what you do.
I've managed to make a kind of success doing what I'm doing, and hopefully I can continue. But I think when you look at somebody who's majorly successful like Elon Musk, and people just think, oh, you know, he's a billionaire now, he can do this, and everything he does turns to gold. It's like, you have to think about his past of how has he started there, and even
now, like the amount of things that somebody talked about it recently. I think it was Sam Harris on Lex Friedman's podcast, and they were talking about this thing where I think they were actually talking about meditation, and Sam. I forgot how they mentioned it, but they basically just said, look, Elon has an experience that most people don't have. A lot of company owners have this experience, but with him in particular, he runs so many businesses, and all of them are so unique that if something hits his desk, it must be a fire. Otherwise, it wouldn't get to him.
Yeah.
So he wakes up in the morning knowing he's just going to put down fires.
Yeah.
There's nothing else.
Yeah.
But for everybody else, it feels like you have your life is being penetrated by those moments, and you're kind of like not always prepared for it, and you're not always thinking about even pushing through it. But that's to your point of, like, for example, with Elon Musk, is like, people look at it and say, hey, you know, look at what he has all the money, he has how he got there, like, and every day he keeps getting there on a daily basis.
And the sacrifices young that you have to make, like, even for what I do. It's like there were times when I would go home from school, all the kids would go out and play and do fun stuff, or even through into the teen years, everyone would be going out and just getting wasted in the park and having fun, and I'd go home and play drums and then go and like hang with everyone. But there was always like you sacrifice, in order to do anything, you got to sacrifice certain other things, and I definitely made this a priority. I think people don't see that when it comes to anything. When somebody dedicates their life to something, it's not just fun, it's like you dedicate, you become a monk for this thing. Like, everything else comes second, which means all the growing up fun as a child, doing all the stupid like stuff we would do as kids, and everything has to come second. And then, you know, I think that's what makes or breaks people, because if you don't enjoy that process, it becomes a chore and it becomes a job, and then you're just doing something that you actually don't really enjoy. Whereas for me, it was always something that I loved, and it was a passion, still is a passion to this day. I've been playing drums, I turned 30 in 2 months, so since I was 3, so yeah, 27 years. And I still sit down behind a kit every time and I go, I love this, like, I'm having so much fun with it. So the sacrifice was necessary, but it was a choice, and it was an enjoyable choice. It was never a chore for me to just go, I need to do this, and like, oh, this sucks, I got to put in this amount of time and that amount of time, you know. But people don't see that side of it. People just see, you know, how they see you, and they're like, oh, he now plays drums to a load of people. I have people that I didn't really know at school but knew of me, and they would, you know, some people would just chat shit because they just think, oh, like, you know, he doesn't deserve that. So, well, why don't I deserve that? Like, yeah, so I got a lucky break and managed to make some money doing something I love, but like, why not? I've like worked my freaking ass off from the day I picked up a drumstick to the day I played my first show with One Direction. Like, that whole time was like packed with just a shit ton of hours of just me obsessing over this one thing, you know.
Well, I think in this particular case, like all people that talk shit anywhere, I think it has much less to do with what they think about you and much more to do with some inner pain. Because people don't
a lot of
complain
people definitely.
when the
people
life
like
is
to project,
good. You know, you're not going complaining about the world when you won the lottery. That's not the thing. That's not where your focus is.
Yeah.
Do you think that the thing, as you were talking, kind of came to me, do you think it's possible that the thing you don't always have the words how to break down for people when you teach them is actually, you don't quite know, because maybe it's the water you swim in, so maybe it's invisible to you. But do you think that maybe the thing that is hard to communicate is how much they should pay attention to certain things?
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because maybe
Yeah.
like there's an entire array of variations and things that is just obvious to you because you just, like you said, you love it, you pay attention, a
Yeah.
certain amount of attention that people just actually don't know how to, like.
Yeah, but a lot of it's subconscious stuff too.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
just,
That's what I mean by maybe the water you swim in. So it's,
yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that I would do just to play a normal, straight ahead beat that anyone could pick up a drumstick and drumstick and just sit and play, you know. And there's a reason, like I'll sit and play it and I'll try and make it sound good, and it's like a stone, it's like a rock in the water, and like after years and years it becomes super smooth, and it's once you've done it for so long, you start learning subconsciously, like how am I gonna accent certain things and push certain things to make it feel better, so it's not just you know, all this kind of stuff.
So
And that's
like,
what's quite hard.
ornamented, kind of like go, like add, you like carve extra spaces in between, basically.
Even sometimes just the way you attack or hit certain things in a certain way can just, like, you can hear, like if I play the exact same notes and another drummer who can play plays the exact same notes, you'll hear the beat and you can make it sound two very different ways, still playing the exact same notes. And it's a feel thing. So this is like a whole
I
other
never
thing.
even thought about it. So you're saying
Yeah.
that even the attack and
Just how you, from everything, how you attack the drums, the way, it's like an energy, what you're putting in and the way you're kind of stoking this fire, it comes out to something different as the way someone else will play it. Yet you can mimic each other, and like I can hear someone play a beat going like a specific thing and I could copy it exactly and go, okay, cool. And this is what's really hard for me to translate to people when people are like, oh, but you play this so smooth, it sounds so smooth. It's like, oh, I don't know how I do that. It's just years of like playing it, feeling what feels good. It's the same as anything. It's trial and error. You sit and play something 1,000 times and you learn what sounds good and what your voice is with it. It's like a human voice, you know.
that is really interesting. I just want to see the camera still running. I have.
Cool.
I have. Perfect.
2, 1, 2, 3.
One.
So, Bonzo Live.
Things are so sick.
So this is somebody who's that guy?
There's just a load of drummers on this thing that just go on and they get a load of professional drummers in to come and like just teach random things, and they put it all on the internet to like help other drummers learn. Dude, we have the best community ever.
Drummers?
Freaking greatest community ever.
Yeah, it is an interesting psychology.
You
kinda like it.
everyone wants to help each other.
Yeah.
It's great.
But do you think that's, maybe, is it less common in, like, I guess, with leading, like, singers and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's definitely less like you know, all the other instruments seems to be like a little closed off. They all want to keep the stuff to themselves, but not the drumming community. We want to share everything. Like,
That's
dude,
it.
I just learned this groove. Check this out. That's the beautiful thing about.
There's
playing
something
drums,
a little bit out of left field, but it feels like very similar to the parkour community.
Sure.
Yeah, because it's a very, like, pack mentality.
Yeah.
Like, you help each other do a thing.
Always, and that's the best way. And the best thing is as well, like I suppose it's with anything, you never stop learning ever. Even if you're like the best in the world, you never stop. You always like there's more you can learn. There's more things. I mean, look at Tony Hawk. Throughout his whole career, he kept innovating, making new stuff, learning new stuff, and
No, that's 100% true. The only question is what makes certain, what do you want to call it? Certain parts of performance art more closed off to that understanding or to the sharing of it. Like, because I guess maybe, I mean, this is literally, I'm pulling it out of my ass, but maybe because singers are always in the front. And there's, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like about them.
it's also harder because a voice is a voice. It's like you can learn different techniques singing and stuff, but like let's take guitar players. A lot of them have their own signature riffs and stuff, and I don't know. There's a lot of people that would be
Yeah.
happily be like, "Oh, let me show you how to play this," but a lot of them be
But
like, "No,
also-
man, this is my thing. Like, I don't want you to learn my thing because I do my thing."
Got it. But I see what you're saying. I guess it can creep in anything.
Yeah.
But also, again, like I'm saying that, and then we know someone like Jules was like the most
Insanely
open person,
talented, but
insanely
open
talented and
and-
open person.
Dude, he even like we would do warm-ups together, and he'd be like, "Oh, so when you're singing this, sing more from here rather than here," and all this, you know, like
Yeah, he really wants to help.
because he's
all the
not
time.
threatened. He's not threatened by
Because he
me
knows what
gonna
he can
take
do.
over.
Yeah.
But he knows that he knows his worth. He knows he's good.
But he's not even threatened by other
Anyone.
singers, yeah, because he knows he's that good.
Well, not even that. Like, there just becomes a point where you don't care. Like, if anyone comes up to me and says, "I love what you did on this. Teach me how to do this," I'd be like, "Cool, thanks." Like, it's a humbling experience. You're like, "This is so nice that someone actually digs what I do.
So-
I'm going to teach you this happily."
So that strangely connects to what I wanted to say, which is that thing you said about the fact that it's yours, like in the sense that you can play exactly the same thing, and it would sound different because it's a different person.
Yeah.
And the difference would be literally their personality.
Yeah, like
Right?
like your own flair.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was I did a series of interviews for a CEO of this restoration company. We worked together for almost a year and he did a series of videos about a couple of books that he wrote. Actually,
Cool.
I think 3 books. And one of the main themes was in all of them, through all of them, is that people always miss the point. So, okay, for example, the last one he wrote was about marketing,
Mhm.
right? And in it, basically, he outlined, it's called Marketing for People. And what's interesting is that he outlines how many people miscomprehend what marketing really is, which is you speak the truth of whatever the mission of your company
Yeah.
is, versus I saw a website, it looks cool, make me a website just like that.
Mhm.
It's not about that website.
No.
Whatever they did that worked for them, it was because that website connected exactly with what they're doing.
Yep.
So they came from this authentic place of what they do.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like what you're saying is very similar, which is like, look, I can teach you all day long, but in the end you have to bring like your own piece. You have to bring your own self
Yeah.
in which you explore the truth police.
The truth police, they're coming for you, Danny. Yeah, completely. So,
The truth
and
ambulance.
oh yeah, it was the thought ambulance. They kind of lock you away because you're crazy.
But do you, yeah, so I feel like that is something maybe understood. Like, again, I have no idea why it would be necessarily with drummers, but it's amazing that it is, that the people that just are really good at what they do. I guess it's just with people that are really good at what they do. Maybe it's just the community you know. They understand that it's not about mimicking anybody or learning this one thing and that's what's going to lend you the gig. It's about being fully invested in
Mhm.
exploring the space
Yeah.
in a way that would interest others,
Yeah.
basically.
And that's the thing, and it's helping someone else develop their own voice and their own sound. That's the greatest thing, because anyone can, you know, copy someone else, and like I can sit and study a drummer for years and years and then play everything this drummer plays to be like, I want to sound like him. And to a degree, that's what we all do. We all listen to our influences and then kind of pick and choose bits and then interpret it in your own way. I love when drummers come to me and they're like, you know, they're talking to me, or they say, oh, I need some advice on this. It's like the best thing ever has been like, let's help, like, you know, let's create your voice. Let's create your sound, your stamp on things. And other, you know, some people are going to have huge, like, strong fortes of like certain like parts of their drumming, and other bits that are maybe not as prevalent and strong. Whereas, you know, but that's their sound. So like the reason, like for me, my sound, I hit quite hard. I have quite a aggressive style of playing when I play, because my background, the stuff I used to listen to as a kid and play along to, and the thing that really formed and shaped me as a drummer and where I wanted to go to was that kind of music. Whereas, you know, a lot of people that are listening to today's music are going to have a very different sound to the people that grew up 20 years ago or 40 years ago or whatever it is. So it's always fun to, you know, kind of learn. Like I could watch a drummer that's been drumming for 2 years come out with some crazy thing, and I want to go, played drums 27 years and I've never thought of that. Like, I'm going to try it. And then you try it and you're like, I just learned something off a beginner. And that's the beautiful thing is you can never stop learning. Like that.
You are very humble. So like, you know that you're good, and then there's this component of you got to be really careful with what you say. But in general, you look like this is also naturally you. you understand, like you said, that you never stop learning, and there's always something for you to learn, even if it's from somebody that didn't have all your experience.
Yeah.
Would you say that? Do you feel that you carried that always, or did it also slightly develop because of the nature of having a lot of attention around you?
Both. I think I've always been quite open and like open to sponging. It sounds horrible, just sponging off of people. So it's like, of course, like everyone has an ego. There's an inner ego in everybody, especially musicians and performers that go, you know, like I want to be the best. When you're growing up, you're like, I want to be the best drummer in the world. And then the older you get, the more you go, I want to be the best I can be. Like, there's no such thing as the best drummer in the world. You just want to be the best that you physically can be. And in the time when you're like growing up, I want to be the best. You want to outdo everyone. You hear someone play a lick and you want to go, oh, I can do that. I want to do that better than that person. And it's just something I had to just naturally. I didn't like that. I didn't like it if people did that to me or around me. I didn't like it when I heard friends of mine say that kind of stuff, because I'm just like, it's just like a turn-off quality for me when people are like that. There's having determination, and then there's just being like an ego crazy, like I need this, me. So I pretty much from them was just I want to make a conscious effort. And there's people like
that in the industry?
Of course, yeah. Oh my days! Like this industry's full of it. Like usually as well, it's the people that are at the top, the ones that are like the top, you know, like.
The top.
The top people are the most chill. They don't have anything to prove. It's the people trying to come up that like are just crazy, and you know there's a lot of that kind of mentality where people think they're God's gift to earth, but they're not. And they but you can't tell them that, because that's you know, it's who are you to say that? You just hope sometimes these people would just, you know, kind of. Most of them will get a reality check pretty hard. Someone will slap them down pretty hard, and then they'll go and assess everything in it and go, oh shit, maybe I'm not the greatest thing ever, but it doesn't mean I just have to suck. Maybe I just have to work for it.
If they're lucky, it will happen to them.
There's a lot of people where it doesn't, and ultimately they don't make it. You know, very, very few people make it with that kind of mentality.
But do you really think that people either make it or not, or don't make it on the basis of that? Some people are like, I'm sure that some very successful people are complete assholes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And that's probably why, I think in certain scenarios, that's why some people are successful. Because they're ruthless, because they think the sun shines out their ass. Like, and in some industries you need that. And in the music industry, there's definitely people that do that and succeed for it. It's just not how I roll. Like, I don't know. It doesn't do it for me. And if that means that there's a downfall for me, and if it means I can't reach a particular height that I could have got to, then that's fine. That's just not who I am. But you know, I've done all right as I am, so I'll just continue to do it.
How do you see the next chapter, whatever this incredible life is for you? Is it you just want to keep innovating?
Yeah.
In your field? Yeah,
I just want to the older I get, the more I realize like life is genuinely too short for any bullshit. I just want to I want to enjoy what I do. I want to keep creating, keep pushing, have no walls and boundaries. I want to be able to I still want to go and tour. I want to go and play live. You know, if One Direction come back and say, let's go on tour, I'm going to go, absolutely, hell yeah, let's go and do that right again. That sounds great.
That's a weird one that they never really, like, they didn't actually. There was no announcement of them not being a thing anymore. You just
well, there isn't. They're still on hiatus. Like technically, you know, the band isn't over. The band was never like disbanded. The entities weren't, you know, legally closed and stuff. It's.
How was the? No, it doesn't even necessarily. Not that it's no commentary on One Direction. It's just in general. I really didn't think, even asking too many questions about that side of it, but. It is interesting. So because I understand that there's probably many reasons as to why they didn't perform since whenever the last time was. But how did all the entities that made money out of that respond to that? Like, what was because I'm assuming, you know, the promotional companies or the label or whomever is kind of like the main driver.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know much about the contracts they signed.
So it had to do with the legalities of things, basically.
It's always, I mean, at the end of the day, when you're in something for a long time. Like those guys were doing things for a while.
How long was the run?
2010 till end of 2015.
Okay, so like 5
But-
something years.
Usually bands will do.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, yeah.
I just don't want to be in it with my garbage.
Oh, it's the best. That's the best
It's the best
part.
part. It's your garbage is roses or flowers. Wow. That's
At least you look nice. You're dressed lovely, and yes, I mean it's the same as anything. Most bands, you know, you have a band go out for 2 or 3 months on the road and tour. With these guys, it was like 10 months on, 2 months off. So for 5 years, there was like 80% of your year, even more, like 85, 90% of your year is work. For 5 years.
yeah. That's
Every
all.
single day at a level like I thought I had it hard. I mean, I say I had it hard like it's a joke. I never had it hard whatsoever. Like we got to wake up, roll out of bed, go work out, have lunch, go sound check on stage. My kit's already set up. My drum set Fred was incredible, and he would set everything up perfectly, and then we play a show and we get on the bus and have fun. Like
How long is the show?
between an hour and a half and 2 hours, depending on
That's
what happened.
I mean, I'm sure they're used to it, but like drumming for that long. then
Oh,
show-
it's a workout, man.
Yeah,
It's a workout. That's why I love it. It's very physical. I just love physical jobs. That's why I do it. I love manual labor. Like it's stupid. Like
Yeah.
digging holes, knocking down buildings, rebuilding buildings. I love that kind of stuff. But for them, for those 5 boys as well, it's the stuff people don't see behind the scenes. You know, it's the waking up at 4 a.m., jumping on the phone for 4 hours doing promo around the world, and then doing this and doing that, and then they've got the show, and then after the show they got meet and greets, and they got all this kind of stuff. Like those guys worked so hard. So for 5 years they hardly had time off, and then they couldn't walk out of their own front door without being like surrounded by media and other people and stuff. So everyone needs a break from that. If I was in their position, I would have needed a break. Like even after the 5 years, I needed a break. I was like, I can't wait to have a year just to do nothing. Like I cannot wait. Now I'm like, all right, this will be the 6th year. I'm like, I'm ready to go back on the road, like that level again. You know,
6
that kind
years
of
since
level.
then, and basically still, there's no real movement. Talking about physical things, because I know you did some martial arts, right?
Yeah.
BJJ and MMA too.
Yeah, and then it was mainly Muay Thai, BJJ.
Muay Thai is a good base. That's definitely gonna give you a workout.
Oh man,
Did
it was
you-
great.
What you were talking about today, are you still doing BJJ right now somewhere?
No, I rolled with a friend earlier, just literally over there, like last week. It's the first time I've rolled in 2 years. I got a neck injury, quite bad as well.
From this one?
No, from two years ago. And I've only just started getting it looked at with my physio back in the UK, who is like magic, and she's making me feel all sorts of better, which is great. So I haven't rolled in 2 years, and then we rolled again, and Luke's never rolled before in his life, so it was fun for me to get back into getting physical with somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, so I could not get my ass handed to me for the first time back, which was really nice. Because that's the beautiful thing about BJJ is, for the first year you were just constantly getting choked out, getting submitted. Like it is
Yeah.
just constantly getting dicked on until you suddenly work out how not to get destroyed. You know.
Did you ever work that out?
I started to get it. Definitely.
It's a
My-
magical moment.
It is amazing. I remember there was this one guy, and he was about 6'2", must have been maybe 200 pounds, big guy. And we had to start on our feet, and then obviously we'd go for the takedown and then try and submit. And I'm like, I'm 5'7", like I'm gonna get destroyed. And this guy's a lot heavier than me. At the time I was about 155, and I was like, I'm gonna get destroyed. The guy couldn't take me down.
Why were you guys paired up?
It was just flow rolling. It was just
Okay,
chill.
it was.
It wasn't like a
No, I
proper
understand,
thing.
but still, even then.
We'd pair up with everyone. I've ended up rolling with people that are 16 and small frames and they'll destroy me. And I've been rolling with bigger guys
no,
who
with
can't do
BJJ
anything.
definitely happened.
But this guy couldn't take me out. He couldn't take me down, and we eventually went to the ground. I think we got bored of stand-up. We went to the ground, and I just thought, I'm not going to attack him because he's a lot bigger. I'm going to exert so much energy So I'm just going to pure defend until he's tired. He couldn't submit me whatsoever. Couldn't keep me in a position because I have quite a good base, but for my size, I'm strangely strong.
Yeah.
And afterwards, I remember it was the best moment when I finally realized. I was like, I think I'm getting the hang of what I'm doing. He goes, man, you're a freaking ball of muscle, bro. He goes, I couldn't take you out. I was like, yes, finally, somebody who looks mean and big and scary couldn't do shit. And I was like, okay, I now understand that actually, like, it's not all about raw strength and power. It's all about like knowing your body, knowing what you're doing, and just when to exert energy, when to hold energy. And it's the same for anything. Drumming is exactly the same, because you could be playing a song that is just super up tempo, and there'll be times when you're like giving it everything, and if you imagine like like an energy meter is like depleting a bit, and then every single time you stop, it recharges a little bit more to catch your breath. You just find techniques and you find times in music when to conserve your energy more, and you're still playing with the same intensity, but your technique comes in rather than just your brute strength.
Just glide.
And it's like getting into that flow, into that rhythm. People get into it in yoga, people get into it meditating. If you're in that flow, you find your flow in anything. It's the same with it all. So
Yeah.
I found a lot of good corresponding stuff between martial arts and drumming. And you get hurt in both. Drumming can be dangerous.
And you drew an interesting analogy for me one time that I honestly never thought about. You said that you were actually decent in Muay Thai and even in like different standing martial arts like boxing, right? Because of timing. Because your timing is impeccable.
I was
much
getting
easier
good.
for you to understand.
But
that.
it was also it could be a drawback. It was great when you're just sparring with someone. It's brilliant. You're just trying to out-time each other. You can kind of get a rhythm going. But my instructors would always be like, okay, you're telegraphing it. You're going do. The timing is, they're like, go da.
You want to confuse them.
You want to be, and
inconsistent for them.
Yeah, but I love playing drums in consistent timing. I love playing in 7. I love playing in 5. I love doing all these weird things where it kind of like you chop and change halfway through, and it's a little bit more prog. Like I love doing that. So
Did you ever fuck with jazz? Sorry, I don't mean to cut you. No.
No, jazz is one thing that I was just like I never really got into it. And I feel like my friends that did, it was like a way of life. They loved it, and they really obsessed into it, and they could sit there and just listen to it. I just can't even sit and listen to it.
So it's just
I just don't enjoy it.
You don't necessarily connect to it that much. So.
I don't connect to it. You're right, but who knows? In the future, I may.
I'm guessing.
And the drumming is insane. Jazz drumming is so good and so technical, and it's so like precise. But at the same time, these guys, yeah, it's so like, everything is just, it's such great phrasing. It's all feel. I just haven't got that in me to sit and learn it.
So would you say that they need to master flow like a little more than regular drumming, or?
No, I think even regular drumming, you can make anything flow, and you can make anything like advance, even the simplest stuff. I think it's with jazz, a lot of it, especially reading, like sight reading and stuff. You gotta be so like on it, and you're like reading chops of like being able to play the notes for the first time after seeing them on a page for the first time, not rehearse it, and just look at it and go, okay, cool, play everything note by note on live TV or in a show or whatever. That's just another level. I haven't got to that level. My sight reading sucks so bad.
Sight reading?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean
like reading it in one go and just playing it as you're reading it, almost like reading a book where you can take it in, but playing drums. So you're reading a note and you're going like, you're almost reading slightly ahead to go, okay, now I know this next groove, and you're playing at the same time while keeping the rhythm, while listening to the music, while still trying to, instead of sounding like a robot, you're still trying to like fit in and serve the song and serve the music. And it's another skill that, and I haven't had the patience as a kid to do it. I can read music, but my sight reading wasn't great.
You know it's interesting because this is I guess is kind of like my own tangent, but one of the reasons I wanted to do this interview show was I wanted to talk to people that live what they do, so literally it's integrated into who they are as a person, but in addition to that, I wanted to explore what it feels like to be them outside of that thing that accompanies the majority of their lives.
Sure.
And I guess maybe the deeper sense for me is that there's something about that trajectory of life that is available for almost everybody. I don't want to say everybody because I'm sure there's, you know, some people with some disabilities that wouldn't allow for certain things.
Sure.
But I would say that a good chunk, my feel is that a good chunk of people, if they devote themselves early enough to something and they go about it a certain way, in other words, lead with, I don't want to sound cheesy, but with their heart. In other words, they really commit, like you said, like that's the main thing for them, and
That's their life,
everything
yeah.
else kind of like. So it feels to me like if you have those two things, commitment and love for the thing, and also you constantly stay humble with it, you eventually, almost anybody can reach almost anything. And considering the fact that we're now entering a world in which we're potentially going to have way more days of our lives available to us, it felt like a good way to spend my time exploring some of those incredible people that I happen to know, because I feel like there's real content there outside for just listening to a conversation. There's
Sure.
something that we can always take. So the reason I'm saying that is because I'm now kind of like thinking about it. One of the things that I always like to explore in those conversations is what is it like, what is the person's deepest point of contact with what we might call the divine? Like, is there like any, because for some people it's not even on the radar, right? And I'm rediscovering, because I'm listening to you talk. At the same time, I'm trying to think, what can, like what would be a thing for you that every once in a while plays the role of that place? And I can't, because when I ask a question, I want it to be genuine. I don't want to ask a question just to have a question. That's
Sure.
why I don't prepare them. I want to be.
It's a conversation.
Yes, but I also, you know how when somebody asks you a question, even if it wasn't written down, it does feel like they just
Loudest car ever.
filled space with that question.
Yeah, when they ask you just a filler.
I don't ever want to do that, because I actually want a question that I'm really interested in. So I guess I was constantly searching for this place where I'm not sure whether there's a deeper component that you don't always explore, but it does play like a substantial role in the meaning that you get in your life. But it feels to me like it's just you found it. Like it's drumming and people. You love drumming, you love people,
Yeah.
and you love any point of contact between those two.
Yeah.
Which, of course, you work with people, so.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I my whole life, like, I live for music. I live for not just drumming, like just creating music. I love creating. I love getting whatever's in my head out, or sometimes even if it's just I'm gonna hear it. Like, I just love that. And then I love being around people and exploring other people's worlds and visions and the way they see the world, because we all see the world very differently. And there's a lot of people that will see the world like the same way you do, and I love hanging with those kind of people. But I love the fact that my music, or music that I'm a part of, or music that I just play, can touch people in the most opposite parts of the world with the complete different system of way of thinking than I do, and still have a common ground. And that's why I love what I do. I feel like it's a special role. Everyone wants to feel special, I guess, and I guess my main thing that makes me feel special and good about what I do is I get to create music that allows all different types of people from all different walks of life to come together as one and not even think about anything other than just this common enjoyment of music and escaping and everything. And that was what I loved seeing touring with One Direction, seeing all these, tens and tens of thousands of kids a show in different countries, and some of them wouldn't even speak English, no English, but they all knew the words to every single song. They all sang along and they all cried, they all were in the moment and stuff. And I'm like, that is what makes music and what I think, what I do, that's what makes me feel so special and so good, is you get to help facilitate that moment for people. And I think that's almost like a payment. That's like being paid.
Now we put our clothes on and we're warm.
Yeah, now we're warm, finally.
Do you think, let me ask you one question that is kind of like, I guess, out there a little bit. You were just saying that it feels like you kind of bringing it for people. Music. Like people
Yeah.
from all walks of life, they show up, they don't necessarily understand the language even.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's possible that music is something that is there and you see it and and musicians have the ability to instantiate it through actual like so musicians that thanks he's like no he's like yeah.
He's like, I'm not quite ready
No,
for
no,
that
no,
question.
yeah. Do you think it's possible that musicians literally have the ability to see it in their mind's eye and then translate it to in a way that other people can see? They make it visible.
Sometimes,
Everybody
yeah. I think it depends. Like,
But I mean it not metaphorically. Do you think it's possible that there's something in the fabric of existence that is kind of like vibrating in like some harmonic way, and those things are actually discovered?
I think that could be, yeah. I think it definitely helps. Like, if I think about it in the sense of writing a song, and sometimes a song just literally writes itself, and by that I don't mean like it just happens in front of you and you're like, whoa, what's happened? Like, as in, it comes so easy and freely, and it's just there, and you're like, wow, what just happened? Literally, we've gone 20 minutes in and we've written the whole song. It was almost like it was so perfect, and we just plucked it out of the air and
So I
put
think
it
it's
in.
possible you basically relax enough to hear it, and then it just
Yeah.
reveals its.
Well,
'Cause
like-
I'll tell you what made me think of that is like when I film musicians, I notice this a lot because I see the whole picture of like people interacting, and then I would see sometimes somebody on one side of the room close their eyes and do a thing, and then somebody on the other side of the room would do something musically, and they would go. So they saw it.
Yeah.
You know, they saw the same space, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's what made me
You,
think.
yeah, you definitely, music's something you feel, and like, yeah, you can close your eyes and understand that there's like, you know, you almost, when you're playing with other musicians especially, this comes apparent. It's almost like you read and feed off of each other, like you know what the sound, so like, for instance, the bass player in One Direction, Sandy, him and I have this crazy connection where we could be jamming, even after years of not playing together, we could be jamming, and we'll both almost know what we're going to do next without knowing what we're going to do next. It's almost like things are set up in a certain way. It's almost like, yeah, it's almost like we both see what's going to happen and we both hit it. And I think that's a real thing. You tap into this, like, yeah, it's something else, like you're creating something, but it's almost like, are you creating it from just what's in your mind, or are you seeing it in your mind and just playing through it? I suppose that's a hard question to answer.
No, I don't think there's like a straight up answer. I just feel like I really wanted to see what you think. It always feels to me like there's always this extra. There's gotta, like, to me, I mean, it's a deep subject, so we're not gonna dive into it right now, but it just, to me, it always seems like there has to be a medium through which we do this thing. Like, when I talk to you, we think of it like, oh, you know, just what do you mean? Like, you said something, so I got it. Okay, but where?
Mm.
You know, where'd you get, like, where did you get it? You know,
Sure.
there's a space in which we see that. I translate my thoughts into you, and in music, it's very obvious, I guess, because it makes you feel immediately.
Yeah.
Music is the one thing that kind of touches against your feelings right
Yeah.
away. A painting, you can look, have an impression. There's like I guess, a more of a cerebral component, and then you might feel through that. But in music, it's just like, boom, just.
It can do, and sometimes it is also something they have to listen to 2 or 3 times before it starts, like, speaking to you in that way too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like sometimes certain chords and certain frequencies can provoke certain emotions, and you know, we all feel, we all hear things, and it's like, for me, every time, even now, sitting here, I've got music playing in my head, and it's almost like a soundtrack to my life. So I'm like, whether it's something we just
That must be
recorded
nice.
or it is, and at the same time it's a bitch to turn off, because it's like a lot of the time I'll just be sitting there kind of tapping along, and my wife will say, "You are not listening, you're singing a song in your head, aren't you?" And I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I am, sorry, like I'm in another world." And that's the other part of being creative. And
So that being said, I know that you also have to run and keep recording in the studio. One final question for you. A little trite and cheesy, but I don't want you to give your best stab because I think it has value. If you have to talk to a young musician that does feel that that's what they want to do, if you would have to give them one concrete piece of advice, what would that be?
Again, sounds really cheesy. Don't give up. Don't give up.
No matter what.
No matter what. If it's what you want to do it. Put everything you can into it and make it happen. There's no set path to do it. There's no like set thing of like you need to do this and this and this and then it will happen. It's like no, like we have all the resources and means to do anything we want. So just start doing it and practice your ass off. Never stop learning, never stop practicing.
Josh, deeply appreciate you, brother.
And
I
you,
hope
my
to do
bro.
this again at some point, maybe through Zoom when you're back to England.
Absolutely, it'd be lovely.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank
Likewise.
you for taking the time.
Thanks, Danny.
Appreciate
Appreciate
it.
you, brother.